welcome back to Alluvial Uncontained, where I am Gabrielle, your real estate coach. So in this episode, guys, we are gonna put on our construction hats, and we are basically going to dive into the difference between stick-built and container housing. And surprisingly, this is one of my most frequently asked questions. Why container home? What's the difference from stick-built? What is a container home? So I'm going to take this moment to really give you guys a thorough debrief and a little education on container homes. So the only difference between container homes and stick-built homes, I want to throw this one nugget out there, is the building envelope. Now, depending on your state and local jurisdiction, every state has different building codes and different building requirements. So depending on the state that you have chosen to build in, it is important that you link up with your city, local municipality, so you are clear that your project is meeting building codes. Now, this should be very clear. You should have clarity on if your project is meeting building codes or not when you're in the design phase, and as you get to designing your container product. Now, the second disclaimer I want to throw out is that container homes and mobile homes are two completely different things. Two completely different things. A single wide mobile home falls under the classification, and so do the tiny homes on wheels. Those all fall under the classification of automobiles. A double wide mobile home falls under the classification as a residential real property, but that is because it is affixed to the land. Now, with that being said, we don't do anything mobile home related, nor are mobile homes and container homes the exact thing or the same thing. So I just wanted to throw that in there prior to diving into this conversation. So one thing people are often just with containers is, I don't really understand. Is it similar to a trailer? What is this? Why container? Why would you go this route? Is it cost effective? Is it cheaper? Is it, why? So is it more energy efficient? And the biggest thing that we've learned is it's all of those. So container homes, they're more cost effective, but they're not cheap. So hear me out, guys. Cost effective, not cheap. A container home is really built out in a similar fashion to a stick-built home, and where the only thing that is really prefabricated off-site is your building envelope. So where this is great is that at the same time your site work is going, your utilities, your foundation work, everything is kind of being done on site, you can at the same time have your building envelope, which is the framework of your home, being worked on off-site. Now, through our experience with container homes, one thing we noticed in our first few projects is that it really was kind of cost prohibitive for us to try to prefabricate most of them off-site, because once we actually were able to haul and move the container, we noticed, there were foundational issues with the drywall. We were having to go back. Things were cracking, moving. Our building was shifting. So as we completed work, we found ourselves spending additional material costs going back to essentially correct some of the work that we had already completed. So as it comes to, moving them and kind of the whole concept of I'm gonna prefabricate everything off-site and then rough it all in and drop it on site. That's not how we work. And the other thing that we've noticed, and why it's impertinent to check with your city and local municipalities, is when it comes to inspections. In the District of Columbia, our inspectors require inspections behind the walls. So with you trying to really manufacture it off-site without having gone through that pre-inspection, it really created an additional headache because you had to open up the walls again, then go back and correct the walls for you to get it through inspection. So in our experience, we've noticed to where we've just had an easier build, only focusing on the building envelope off-site. So with that being said, our building envelope on containers are steel, whereas this is stick-built, they would be wood. This is key because you guys just really need to kind of know the difference between wood and steel. Where it takes, wood untreated, a fairly shorter amount of time to completely rot away than it does steel to fully rust away. Where with wood, you light a match and drop it on and your house is burnt down to the ground instantly. With steel, you have more of a fire-resistant product. So that's just something to keep in mind. Also, all of our containers that we've worked on so far actually have been one-trip containers, which means when it comes from a sustainability and an environmental perspective, we are exceeding sustainability and energy efforts as it relates to our build. So this is also key as well when it comes to building with shipping containers. Now, like I mentioned, the difference between container and stick built is the building envelope, but as it relates to construction, containers are not cheap, but they are more cost effective in the sense that you can have multiple pieces moving at one time to best push your project through a lot quicker. So at the same time that your foundations work is going on, you can have your building envelope going on. So by the time you finish your foundation work, your building envelope should be wrapping up at the same time. And that way you're able to bolt those containers to your land and affix them to the structure so you can bring in your construction crew to handle this the same exact manner that they would do a traditional stick-built home. So everything from your interior framing to your mechanical electrical rough-in to your insulation. Now, the one thing that we do different on container versus stick-built is because steel is so conducive to temperature and it's so responsive to temperature, it is key that you insulate your container project properly. So we use both a rigid and a foam insulation to ensure that we can help offset the temperature manipulation of steel. So that's a big tip, guys, on that insulation. That's a big tip when it comes to both, stick built and container, because wood is not as temperature resistant. So just keeping that in mind. Also, the difference between stick built and container. Stick built, depending on your local city, municipality, your building height regulations, you can basically stack and do stick built as tall as you like or don't like. With containers, you can stack them up to 11 stories tall. So after 11 stories, you do run into, strength concerns with containers. So just keep that in mind, that there are, height requirements as far as stacking containers. Now back to the overall construction. Now, where this is cost effective is that you have two moving pieces going on at one time. And with that, you're able to streamline a lot of your labor costs. And you don't have to carry a construction crew for half, you can carry a construction team for half the amount of time. due to you being able to better streamline this with having work being done both off-site and on-site. Now, this is key because that part and that streamlined piece is what makes container homes most cost effective. You're carrying your labor for significantly shorter amount of time. Also, your financing costs incorporated with the overall project have been reduced because you can complete the project in a much quicker fashion. So with that, keeping that in mind, one of our biggest questions are like, how are these things cheap? How can we get them cheap? They're not cheap because you're building materials. The cost of those materials are what they are. So our cost of lumber for the interior is still the same. Your kitchen, your finishes, your light fixtures, everything that you've chosen to finalize your overall build, because it's so similar to stick build, the cost on materials they don't change. But where you do see cost savings on containers is in that labor, which is significant to your overall bottom line for your entire construction project. And then the other thing with containers is, and this is container or stick built, they work really well with solar. So as you are trying to, build more sustainable and eco-friendly projects, container homes really incorporate with solar panels, while allowing with that flat surface, allowing you to really, really hone in and utilize a more energy efficient and really having a more energy efficient building. So guys, I hope this quick debrief on container versus stick built was really able to answer a lot of your questions. When you think about this whole process, so many people tend to overcomplicate the container process because it's newer as it relates to the United States. But if you look throughout the world, other countries, especially throughout Europe and Asia, have really adopted container housing principles and models as a standard form of housing, housing in these various places. So as we're getting more, versed and we're getting better introduced to container, I really want for you guys to view it in a similar manner that you would a traditional stick-built home minus the building envelope. And with that said, I have included a few slides of some cool container projects we thought you guys might enjoy. If you are interested in container homes or building your own container home, we will be offering a more thorough course, start to finish, on Construction 101, as well as Development 101, so you really have all the tools and resources to execute on a great project. So guys, thank you for checking in. I hope I was able to answer all of your questions on container versus stick. Well, you guys didn't ask me a question. I hope I was able to debrief you thoroughly on container versus stick built. And if you do have any questions, be sure to reach out. Let me know. I love hearing from you guys. I love, knowing that everywhere around the world, people are exploring containers, and this is a wave that I really think is needed when it comes to exploring additional outlets to affordable and more sustainable housing. So thanks for checking in, guys, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Peace out.